Up on the mountain, caught on the rail line.
Yeah.
Ah,
Middle camera's
It's
all
a,
you,
it's a
bud.
safe it's a safe bet.
safe bet. Well, all right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another interesting and always strange episode of the Strange Herd Podcast. I am your host, Jared Monday, and today's very special, very beautiful, and very incredible guest is the one and only Mr. Luke over here.
Hello.
My brother Luke. Man, I've been waiting to have you come sit down and talk for a lot of different subjects ever since we had Daniel on our fellow D&D party player
Mm-hmm.
on our own episode where we did like a one shot of the two droids in a cantina.
It's his favorite.
Oh, dude, it's a good one. I mean, Seabass was in there. Yeah, like Josh Seabass, same person, different personas.
I mean, it's my middle name, so it's not really
Hey,
not really hiding anything.
it's good to have like something that you can always go to. It's like, hey, are you so and so? It's like, no, I'm Seabass. It's like, it's my middle name. What do you want? But yeah, man, it's I've definitely been excited, and I've been loving the work that you had done for me recently on my Folsom Prison cover.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've been showing that around to a handful of folks, and I'm like, dude, who does that kind of work? And I was like, I know the guy. He's my buddy.
He's just a friend.
He's a good friend. But yeah, man. So I guess just kind of introduce yourself to the internet. Tell us what you do, how you do it, and why you do it.
Yeah, so I'm Luke. I am just a guy. That's it. No, I am kind of a creative person by nature, just a graphic designer. And what that means is usually people come to me, ask me to make things look good for them to either promote a business, like kind of what we did with you was like create an album cover and really anything and everything in between, including the flag that you have hanging behind your
I was
head.
about to say, like, this is actually one of your works of majestic art that I have really gravitated towards and love to death. Even
Wonder why.
I wonder. It's like I'm not the kind of guy to name a band after himself and just say, this is my band.
Am I that guy?
Am I that guy? I am. I'm fucking that guy. All right. But yeah, I mean, dude, the funny thing is, Steve asked the other day when we were doing like some like wrap up for the other podcast we did with Banana Man, as we call him.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about the Dragon Con and everything, and it was, and afterwards, Steve asked like, "Wait, you know a graphic designer? Then why do we still have this shit?" I was like, "Hey, this is one of his. It's one of his." He's like, make another one. Why are we using Canva? I was like, "Well, because I don't know, man.
Because Canva's free.
Because Canva, well, yeah.
That's the exact reason I was given.
I mean, I do pay for the pro.
It's usually you pay for pro on Canva.
Just because it's like, what it, like the basic Canva stuff looks like. It's like, it does give you a little, I personally think it gives you something, but if you're not willing to like learn how to use the stuff or like be like patient, because I mean, I don't know, it's just, I mean, I've heard the same thing about all the other graphic design, like kind of softwares. It's like what is it, DaVinci Pro or something like that? Or
I'm not really sure. Most of what I work with is like within the Adobe Creative Suite. So like,
Adobe, yeah.
Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign are like the core, like the trio, the trifecta, the trinity even.
the Trinity. Yeah. I mean, it's like, that's the kind of thing, it's just with like, I'm not great at like graphic design. And that's why I always like when I have like something really important, I come to you. Because I mean, like that's what you do, man. I mean, you're like, I'm musically creative, and then you're visually creative, and I have like they're so intertwined, but I just cannot like bridge the gap on my own, which I feel like is the way it's supposed to be.
Yes and no. I think, and I was actually saying this to Seabass earlier, like everyone has the potential to be creative. It was something that I heard, as cheesy as it sounds, on a TED Talk once, but I really kind of resonated with it. It was just the idea of like, everyone has the potential to be creative. It's just a matter of what that outlet looks like for you. For some
Yeah.
people, they see that as like interior design. For you, it's music. For me, it's like something within the visual realm. But like creativity comes in various means. Like for people to like say architects, even like building something that takes a level of creativity and innovative thinking. People who make cars, or even people who just do kind of like the simple thing of like, how do you organize your life? There's an aspect of creativity in everybody. It's just a matter of how they like kind of focus it or use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people think that I can't draw more than a stick figure, and even that not very well. Like people attest that to being creative, and I'm like, that's one aspect.
That's the start of it. I mean, what was that? Do you remember that? The cool, like, not Cool Math Games, but like that there was a website you could log into.
It was Cool Math Games.
Was it Cool Math Games?
Probably.
But I did no math games.
There were like 3 math games on there, and the rest were just like random fun.
Well, there was the
flash
one
games.
with the like the stick ninja guy, and it was like you had a literal stick figure that just had a sword, and you just fought, and like you swipe it in the
Just
mouse.
playing endless waves.
Oh my god, yeah, endless waves of zombies and other things. Like,
My favorite was Dune Buggy. It was literally just one of those left to right,
yeah,
kind of like infinite runner things. But it was legitimately a Dune Buggy, and you can earn points if you like did flips and stuff in the air when it tossed you on a ramp. So
love
cool.
it. I fucking love it, man. I mean, it's just like those kind of things, and like going into I'm trying to think of all the different stuff that you've done, because I mean, you've worked for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, you've done like contract work for all types of different like people and like businesses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, like it's just there's so much to cover in that. How do you do you like kind of like me? I don't like when I told some friends and stuff, or like I put out there that I do write songs. I will write songs and sell them to people.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy reach out and ask if I could do country western. No, I can't do a country western. It's just like, is there any areas or like any designing stuff or like any kind of like themes or stuff that's really not like what's your forte and like kind of stuff?
So a lot of what I typically do and what I was kind of trained for was mostly kind of like just visual graphics. So stuff you would see like either on social media for like say using the Hawks for example. And I was kind of saying this to Seabass earlier. So say like the Hawks are playing against the Lakers are coming to town or the Knicks are coming to town. How that would work is basically we'd create like I'm just the creative team. There are other teams, like a marketing team. Like it's honestly, it's kind of like any other business. There's a marketing team, a creative team. Like like an accounting team, or like just like people that are different aspects of the organization. A lot of people just hear that you work for the Hawks, and it's just like, oh, so you see the players all the time. Like, actually,
Nope.
no, I see him just about as much as the next guy does.
Well, I mean, like you would take like for instance, like on a press day, like they had the picture where the guy's jumping up and like pretending to dunk the ball.
Mhm.
Like they get that still shot, and then you'd put all the smoke and flames and like fireworks and stuff. And
Yes, within brand guidelines.
within
yes.
brand guidelines. It's like, Jared, not everything has to have flames and fireworks and
I
explosions.
mean, it can. It's just not
Will.
always.
Not always.
But yeah, so for stuff like that, so like say a press day, they would do photo shoot like at the beginning of the season, getting a bunch of photos of the players. They give that to my team, and we then like clip out the players typically so that we have just photos at the ready during
Yeah.
the season. Though not always, because some shots are more favorable over others. But I feel like again, that's really any kind of creative agent, any sort of agency. Like you get a bunch of photos and you just kind of prep them and use them as you need to during the year. So for how it would work is like, so say, Hawks versus Lakers coming into town,
Mhm.
we have a look and feel that we want for the season, and we would just then create graphics for that. And that usually for me meant like making, okay, how's it going to look on Instagram? How's it going to look on the website? How's it going to look on an email blast for billboards that are around town at bus stops, and sometimes in arena graphics. And it's basically just how do we make everything look and feel consistent across the board, but also on brand, but then still be creative enough to look and feel slightly different from either the season before or something just like something new and fresh or eye catching.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, because I mean, just even thinking about going from like the display screens around like the stadium to a bus stop, like that's because that's the one thing. Going back to the Canva, it's like I'll take a picture or something that I have, and then I'll try to do different like formats, like a Facebook post or like then an Instagram post. Well, those are two different sizes, like pixels and things, and now everything like it has a button to say to resize it.
But it's I think the key is just learning how to keep the information hierarchy of like, okay, so what's important if it's going to be like, just that little banner across the bottom of the screen, like what do we want people to actually see first to grab their attention, and then be, like read more or possibly click through.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of one thing that's really interesting, like that I've learned, like as I've strived for some silly reason to go get a marketing and business degree. I remember in one of the marketing classes, I'll give a shout out to Professor Ansevitz. He is the guy, like absolute one of those hallmark people that it's like I just want a professor that cares. Well, he fucking cares, and he's amazing. God bless that man. But he was taught a class called advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and he has this amazing like literally a book that like he wrote the book that he's like since converted into PowerPoints and stuff. And dude, it's funny. Like once you go through his class, you never look at signs, billboards, posters, and stuff the same again,
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, oh, they're using this kind of thing to kind of draw my eye over here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, it's making me read it this way, and
Mhm.
like just all those different like aspects. And God, it's just like it's like how they I don't want to say manipulate you.
It's not. I don't think it's a manipulation. I think it's more so just
They kind of
it's-
guide you.
It's a guidance. Yeah, it's an information hierarchy and wanting to know what to prioritize over others. So, say the album artwork that we did for you, for example, like the biggest thing that you wanted was there to be like your name to be read first,
Mhm.
and then Folsom Prison Blues immediately underneath it. And so that's why I prioritized the album artwork to have your name and then Folsom Prison Blues, and keeping everything very vertical and visual, because the eye was naturally tracking down to just the train and the flames and
Yeah.
the guitar
I-
on the front and stuff like that.
I
So-
totally was like, Luke, this is missing something. I want something like testosterone and like kind of childish and flames, flames and sparks and fire.
Now this is a great design. What if we lit it on fire?
It's like, what if?
Now hear me out.
Now hear me out.
I cast fireball.
Oh, I don't care what size the room is. But yeah, man, I mean, like that kind of stuff is just really cool. And like, I mean, just as a person, like kind of like with a painter or anybody, like we're talking about the other mediums of art and expression and stuff. It's like I can only do so much through the guitar. You put me in front of a canvas with all the all the colors aren't really gonna help with my my color
Shapes
blindness.
and colors.
It's like, oh, this is a lot of shades of gray. But I mean, it's like that kind of thing just blows my mind. And it's like when people like that have that creative gift like you do, it's just like I'm like, how do you fucking see that?
Mm-hmm.
Like SpongeBob's like, you gotta see it in the marble, be the marble, date the marble, bathe the marble.
Just imagine everything is handsome Squidward, and
Oh
you're
my
fine.
God, handsome Squidward. And I think about like SpongeBob quotes a lot and how like like our friend groups will use those.
You realize that our generation is going to be like in the retirement homes,
Yeah.
and we're all just going to be screaming SpongeBob
Krusty
quotes.
Krab,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like, Mr. Jenkins, it's time for your medicine. Gray, yeah. Where's my diet, Dr. Kelp?
Exactly. It's gonna be like that. We're gonna be screaming SpongeBob, Vines, and TikToks.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's got Vine energy. Okay, Mr. Thompson, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, is that a compliment? Maybe. Oh my God. But I mean, like that kind of thing is really like what always like just like I feel like my biggest issue is like with music right now is like I'm in the process of now recording new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like and I say new stuff, I know Folsom's a cover, but it's like a redone cover, which I hope everyone really likes. Well, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow so you can keep a track. But I
Hit
mean,
that noti bell.
hit that note. I think
Was it smash that like button?
smash that like button. Oh my God! And make sure you subscribe to Seabass's OnlyFans.
Feet pics only.
Feet pics only, just a preference. Wait, I mean,
Specifically, his left pinky toe.
How'd you know? Are you
are
that?
you are you big guy number 5?
Was it? No, are you Ladies Man 217?
I mean, good God, man.
For those of you who don't know, that is a Michael Bay Transformers reference. My references will be obscure, but I will continue.
But to those who get them, they will love them.
Exactly.
Well, one thing about Banana Man, we were talking. So we've have you been to Dragon Con? Have you?
Twice.
Twice, right?
And loved it both times. Been wanting to go back.
Dude, Banana
First-
Man.
First time I dressed up as Aladdin, and the second time I dressed up as Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series.
I love it.
And my wife was Laura Croft for when I was Drake, and she dressed up as Jasmine when I was Aladdin.
I mean, your wife's awesome. Just
She is.
shout out, Sammy. You were wonderful. But I mean, dude. So we were talking about this year. We didn't get the chance to go, but me and Seabass, Banana Man reminded us that hey, today's the last day to buy your tickets for $100. And we were talking about how we need to go and like do like a podcast that's all Dragon Con related.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it's the Strange Herd, man. It's the Strange Herd is full of tons of different types of folks. I mean, people who like Black Clover, people who like One Piece, and people who are wrong. And
You started with Black Clover. I'm assuming there's something there that you were trying to say with that.
It's like we don't judge. That's all I'm saying. I haven't watched Black Clover, but I've seen so many people just shit on that fandom.
Yeah.
Like like and
I haven't seen it either, but someone gave me a synopsis of the series, and I'm just like, that sounds okay.
Yeah.
It never really it didn't draw me.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I'm so obsessive about I'll watch something to death. Like I sped through One Piece. I just like I stay up late and I just kept going to next episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so heartbreaking when I finally got to the point where it wasn't when Gear 5 happened, but it was just oh no, there's no next episode.
I'm caught up.
I'm caught up. Fuck. Like just now I gotta wait every like Sunday for it to come out and things, and I mean it's just like what'd you expect, Jared?
You'd catch up eventually.
Yeah, it was going to happen eventually, but I mean I don't know. It's like I love all those different animes and things like that. I love the culture that goes around with it and the community, and so like the plan is hopefully if you guys maybe want to contribute to the GoFundMe, we can go do some really cool things down at Dragon Con. And what we can do is just like the plan is to go down there, dress up, do a bunch of cool stuff, and shoot a bunch of different like content videos, and then like come back to the hotel like that, or wake up because it's like there's no way we're gonna come back and like not go party and stuff. But come back to the hotel, shoot like a quick recap of what we did today, did that day, and then like just get after it, and then just build up like 5 or 6 like just like our producer Seabass is gonna be quite busy after that.
You're gonna be just as busy with shorts and clips.
True. It's a team effort, Many hands make light work. But I mean, but yeah, dude, I can't like Banana Man was talking about this year he wants to do such like very niche, very specific like kind of like cosplays.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what do you say, Big Man from Ratchet and Clank? Or no, that was a can't remember what he said. It was some cartoon. I want to say it was maybe it was Ren and Stimpy.
I'm not familiar with Big Man though. When you said Ratchet and Clank, I'm just like,
That's the video game.
yeah, that's a video game. I'm like, I don't remember a Big Man in that. But then again, it's been a hot minute since I played any of that series.
True, but yeah, I mean, well, and that's another fun thing about you too. You're also the best Smash player I know.
Smash Bros, Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we used to think our friend Devin was, and then you handled him quite well.
I grew up with my brothers. It was just one of those like, especially in a competitive household, like
Settle it in Smash.
Yeah, it's basically we would settle some differences in Smash Bros and Mario Kart, and so it's basically you live by the sword, you die by the sword, that sort of thing.
I mean, and that was the funny thing for me because I never played that many video games. I loved it, but it's just like everyone was better than me, and I was like, man, I fucking suck at this. I'm gonna go do something else.
How's it feel to get the bronze medal?
I was the bronze, yeah, yeah, not good, not good.
Well, it's because you wouldn't even play the real Mario Kart, though. You played like the off-brand Looney Tunes Mario Kart.
Hey, Looney Tunes Space Race was a fantastic gem. Okay,
Dude, I had that one, and then I had Mickey Mouse's like Speed Racer, where it's like you're racing.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Okay.
Looney Tunes. It was Mickey Mouse.
Okay,
characters.
so
It was-
quick sidebar here. Looney Tunes Space Race, by far one of my favorite games growing up because that was one that we also settled a lot of differences on.
all right.
2, Mickey Mouse, Jared, like the mini racers with Mickey
Yep.
Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth, I've never actually seen it, nor have I played it, so I can't really give you adequate shit for it.
I mean, it was the we got Mario Kart at home, like, and that's the Mario Kart at home.
Fair, fair.
The one thing that was cool is it did have like a battle royale kind of thing,
Mhm.
which I think was copied from all the other games. Whereas you
I
had
think every kart racer has some sort of battle royale. Actually, Looney Tunes never did.
really.
No, Space Race was just exclusively racing. Whereas, I mean, one that we really enjoyed was the Crash Bandicoot, like the Nitro Kart. Well, I know Nitro Kart is the reboot or the remaster.
But that was the one where you had like planes, hovercrafts, and like cars.
No, but not really. It was still just like karts. But it's just I was a PlayStation kid growing up, so Crash
Yeah.
Bandicoot anything was just a blast.
True. I mean, dude, or there's so many like old video games that I like. The one thing that's really funny is those people that no, don't throw that out. It might be valuable one day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look back at the Nintendo 64 and the slew of games that came out for that I just have like fragmented memories of,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, if I found this, I would totally play it again.
It's one of those too. Like you also look back on it with like what is it, rose tinted glasses?
Yeah.
Like growing up,
That's what you grew up
I
with.
thought that DK64 looked incredible, and got to college after because it was my cousins who had a Nintendo 64. Like we didn't have again PlayStation, but
Yeah.
we'd play it when we go over there. But when I went to college and moved in with Daniel and Gabe, like I think Gabe had his Nintendo 64, and so he started playing through like a bunch of the N64 games just on his console. Like that was actually when I first got a chance to play Ocarina of Time, and oddly enough, the Water Temple was the one temple I didn't look up like a guide for.
Yeah.
I was just like, you just had to be thorough. I don't know why the Water Temple was so hard. Every other temple gave me a hard time though. Anywho.
Anywho.
But yeah, Donkey Kong 64. Growing up, thought it looked amazing. Looked at it as an adult or like a young adult in college. My friend playing Donkey Kong 64, and I was just like, yeah,
These graphics suck.
these graphics are very much like. I mean, they were good for the time, but it's
Yeah.
just that's the thing too. Like we've also come such a long way.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like with the Nintendo 64, it had so much like going for it because it was creative. You had both the joystick, the buttons, and like the cross pad, and then you have the trigger buttons and the Z button. Like, of course, then there's controversy. It depends on. I think it depends on what game you're playing, but how do you hold the Nintendo 64 controller?
It exclusively was based on which game you were playing.
See, like, and some people would give me shit because it's like I was like, nah, dude, you always grab the middle, and then you can just like like.
Yeah, no, that one don't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, maybe it contributed to my lack of success in the video game realm, but man, I just think about that kind of stuff. It's going to be valuable, like, real valuable, especially like when we, like, going into our like midlife crisis when we really want to go back and relive the good old days, like that. I mean, I can see Nintendo 64 is going for like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, all of our parents are like, or all of our dads are like going out there getting like the classic like trucks, like their 70s trucks or whatever, just some old beat up truck that they like make it a project. It's like for us now,
Yeah.
I just want someone to give me a functioning PlayStation 2 console that can still read blue discs.
Oh. Or dude, another great console. Play not
Don't say Dreamcast.
no the GameCube.
Oh yeah.
The GameCube was
Good save.
the GameCube was one of my favorites, and I didn't realize there was so much you could connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought all that other stuff was just like, oh, I guess this is maybe how I thought like I was so young when I took off all the little pieces parts where you could see all the other adapters. I was thinking, oh, is it like the power switches or like the power plugs for like foreign countries? How like some of them only have two prongs, or they have like a weird like configuration in Europe. It's like, oh, maybe it's just for the Europeans and stuff like that. And then
no, it's just you have literally different outlets for different controllers and types of hookups.
yeah, or like the Game Boy. You could like I never knew about the Game Boy printer.
I didn't know about that either, but I also made the mistake of getting rid of my Game Boy in favor of my Nintendo DS because I was like, I can play both DS games and Game Boy games on it, and I was just like, in hindsight, I'm like, I should have kept the Game Boy.
Well, hindsight's always 20.
Well, I mean, I can still play the games. Don't get me wrong, but it's just
Yeah.
it's not the same as like I had the SP, the one that flipped up. And I was just like, man, that one was just perfect.
like
When it finally got the backlight behind it, so you could play it any time of day or at night. Really
Yeah.
is what it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, it had two light settings: bright or really bright.
Yeah.
it's like ouch or. But I mean, like, and you just think about those kind of games, and going into it now, I think the future of gaming, bro, it's got to be a mix between an AI. AI is going to control all the NPCs.
It already kind of does.
Does it? I thought it was still kind of preset like responses.
They're preset responses, but I mean, certain games are designed with programs that. We're about to go off on a whole nother tangent.
Oh.
You've unlocked another.
I've unlocked that
another conversation path with me. So the video game. This is one of those where it's going to come full circle, but just bear with me for a second.
Bearing.
So, the video game Alien Isolation is a game where it's basically it's based on the Alien franchise. The idea of the game is like you are Ellen Ripley's daughter Amanda. And basically the premise of the game is you're going out into space to try and find your Ellen Ripley after the events of the first movie. And so of course, like the name of the game, it's shit goes awry and there's an alien on board the ship, and the ship, everyone's just going into panic mode, and it becomes a survival horror game, while you're trying to do various objectives to get the alien off the ship or get yourself off the ship so that you can continue your own mission. And the reason that I kind of brought it up is because the AI for that game is incredibly clever. It's actually got two bots that are thinking against you at all times. So
Jesus.
in the game, as you're progressing from one area to another, there is like say like you are in the med bay going to get supplies because one of the members, like one of the other characters, is like needs medical supplies.
Mm.
And naturally, like any video game, that's where the enemies are. Specifically in this case, the alien. And in Alien Isolation, there are ways to avoid the alien either by hiding. Engaging with it is really hard because it's an alien. It's an unspecified life form that we've never encountered, so we don't know really how to counter it. You get a flamethrower at some point, but again, that really all it does is just kind of scare it off. Can't do anything to actually kill it. All you can do is avoid it or run away from it.
Jesus.
And so because of it, there's like an innate sense of fear that comes with that, that sense of helplessness against a creature while you're still trying to perform all these other objectives. And of course, there's other enemies in the game that just add more complications. But the point being, the alien is a stalker type of enemy, which means that
Oh,
they get
God.
dropped into the world and they're constantly looking for you. And how it works in Alien Isolation, it's a really clever sense of programming. It's got two computers that are trying to find you. The alien itself is a single computer that is basically programmed like find, attack, take out the player.
Yeah.
But it doesn't know where you are. It's a searching program. It will learn as you progress in the game. So say you make a noisemaker, throw it down the hallway. Eventually, it learns to ignore those because that means
No.
that's
No.
probably a decoy.
Fuck.
So that is one level of the AI already kind of learning. Granted, you can argue that this is pre-programmed, but they needed to pre-program some sense of learning capabilities with it.
Yeah.
But the other thing, so the second AI is basically kind of like, for those of you who've played Left 4 Dead, it's kind of like the boss. The AI that's kind of sitting in the back, basically observing how you're playing the game and making judgment calls on how to increase or decrease the difficulty to make every playthrough feel a little bit different. That's Left 4 Dead. But in Alien Isolation, there are two computers. There's the alien computer, and then there's like basically the boss computer that doesn't tell the alien AI exactly where you are, but they're basically like, hey, they're trying to go to the med bay. They are over here. And that's all that it does. And that basically is what forces the alien to constantly be chasing you throughout the game. It never knows exactly where you are, obviously, unless it sees you.
Yeah.
But that's why it's always such a threat, because like there's always the bot that's telling it like it's somewhere in this area. So that's what adds a whole nother level. So going back to the original kind of like talking tangent, and I apologize for completely consuming this end of the conversation,
No,
but
you're
just
fine,
like
dude.
that was what was so cool about it to me. It's like, and that's what like, so the whole thing on AI with video games, like there's an element that's already there. It's pre-programmed. You can argue that that's pre-programmed AI, but that still is some modicum of intelligence that was gifted to this program.
Still, but it's like I just want to be able to help my children when they're young and they're starting out their like whatever games they get into. It's like, Dad, I can't beat this boss or I can't beat this level. And I can like still come in and like be somewhat helpful. But now I just feel like I want to be completely useless. Sorry. Here, Dad, plug into my Oculus 1900, and so it's like put it into the Neuralink chip, and it's like, wow, fuck, I can't do that.
I don't know if it's if at least not in our lifetime it's going to get that extreme. I mean, it could, but for me, it's the element of just like, I mean, games are constantly going to evolve to be bigger, better, and flashier, but it's just a matter of like, you can, I mean, some games you're always going to be better at, like first-person shooter type of games, like Call of Duty. Like you, like if you hang out with my younger brothers and play, like they will smoke you left and right. You play with me, and I'm just as average as the next guy in that.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got their fortes.
Well, with those kind of games, is just I've been really impressed with like watching like some of the people that are like playing the tournaments and stuff. There's so much strategy that they figure out like the algorithm from just playing. It's like, oh, I killed these people over here, so they're going to respawn over here, and then we just like it's like they're coming over, they're going to respawn this way, and then
if you want to see some really impressive like esports, watch people play Rocket League.
oh
Because
Jesus,
there's a whole nother level to that I just never was able to wrap my head around. Like I can hold my own with some friends, and obviously there are other friends who are way better at Rocket League than I will ever be. But that's just one of those games where it's just like, that's actually a very impressive video game, like esport to watch.
yeah.
Because it's one of those, it's very much like a soccer game. Like nobody's scoring, but it's because both teams are just that good at defending.
Well, the Rocket League, like I remember, like me and Joey, we'd play sometimes at his house, and like in college, and he was just like hey, did you know you could like make the car go jump and stuff? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
And you watch these guys in Rocket League, it makes it look like it's pre-programmed.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I applaud all the youngsters out there that have made it in such a thing to where they can actually make a living playing video games.
Yeah.
Like, you proved your parents wrong.
Yeah, we were still part of that generation where our parents were just like, video games aren't gonna get you money.
Yeah, they're
down
not
the
going
road.
to amount to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, man, I just prestiged, and I'm like a level 4, like, warlock, so, like, suck on that. It's like, what's your stats, Dad? Like, the fact that there's probably going to be a family out there of someone who is a father, parent, mother, whatever, and enjoyed gaming or has like a nice like profile that just like, oh yeah, I've got all these like accomplishment achievements and stuff, and then they play their kid and their kid just like runs circles around. It's like, oh, you're trash, you're dog water, you know what you are, you're buns.
Mm-hmm.
Terrified.
That's when you're just like okay, well, let's do this. Load up the original Halo and then let's talk.
Oh, it's fucking on. If it's Halo, dude, I got a shot in the original Halo. Then like maybe. Shut up, Seabass.
I actually feel like you'd have less. I feel like you'd have more of a shot in any other game.
I mean,
Because you have this
let him have
special.
this.
He has this special gift though that if he doesn't have a clue what he's doing while he's playing the game, but he will still play his top 3 almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
He'll jump into Apex or Fortnite, doesn't have a clue what the map is, no clue what's a good gun, where to look, or
Just
anything like that. Still somehow makes it top 3
For what-
almost every single time.
For what it's worth, battle royales were not my thing. I tried Fortnite and I ended up having a lot more fun just going to where the golf carts were and just driving towards the center
Yep.
of the map, and just I would get taken out eventually.
I think the one game I remember, or I think it was League, and I jumped in like to that speeder or something like that, and just kept. I was trying to find people,
Mm-hmm.
and I could not. I couldn't find a soul.
Mm-hmm.
I was running into all like I soloed, like jumped and like split off from whoever I was jumping with, and just was like running around just causing mayhem and havoc. And I just, all right, I guess just, oh cool, I got some pretty cool guns. All right, they're all gold, so that's got to be good, right? And just start running around finding vehicles or whatever I can to jump. And I could not find anyone. And then we got down to the last 3. Or what was it, like the last 2 or 3, and then all just got murked immediately. And just, they didn't even touch my guns. They had their own. It was like, come on, at least loot me. Like, come on, man. Like,
Never back down, never what?
never give up. Oh my god! But I mean, what was that? Fortnite? I think it was either Fortnite or League of Legends. There, they had like a tournament a couple years back that they made a big deal about like some 16-year-old or some 13-year-old kid won the grand prize of like $3 million.
It has to be Fortnite.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to compete until you're 18.
Oh damn!
Really?
Yeah, because it's an international game.
That's fair.
So since you have to go out of country for certain tournaments, you can't compete unless you're over the age of 18.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't follow esports religiously. I mean, you know how I am with sports ball in general, but but I do still kind of like poke my head in every once in a while at like the different tournaments going on, and it's always just a lot of fun. Although recently, my wife and I got into watching BattleBots, which has been a lot of fun.
That shit is badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just get the one that runs in and just flips the other one. Like, oh my god. I mean, it's better than. Well, I don't want to offend Ethan. I was about to say it's almost better than wrestling, but it's like that's.
Here, I'll offend Ethan. It's better than wrestling.
It's like, yeah,
Who's Ethan?
he's my drummer. But yeah, I mean, like, dude, the battle bots, like, oh my god, like and that's like another cool way of like combining like 2 different, like, you got the people that are very like meticulous about like putting like shit together, welding, like fabricating and stuff like that. But you need to have someone that knows how to put together the circuits and all the other things. Like,
Mhm.
I'm assuming those people may be one and the same,
Mm-hmm.
but I would also assume it's a team effort where it's like you got the driver, the operator, the builder, and then the programmer.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy shit.
There's
like,
a whole nother level to it. And then what I always enjoy too is the fact that they all still will do, like when they're doing the intros, they do some sort of small way of like either visually talking trash about each other, like bringing in like a prop or something like that that's supposed to be representative of the other bot or whatever that they're fighting. And it's just like, we were both genuinely surprised. It's one of those. So I actually, funny enough, I actually had a Game Boy game for BattleBots when I was growing up. Like I could, in the game, like I could build a bot and fight other bots, but I was terrible at it.
yeah.
And, you know, of course, all the good like pieces and parts are locked behind a tier system of like beating the game itself. I was never very good at it, and so I kind of like basically like, you know, sold the game to GameStop for the 2 cents it was worth. And you laugh, but it's games.
I bought this for $60. Yeah, we'll give you 2.
That's
$2,
yeah.
2 cents.
Also I was haggling for a very obscure Game Boy game, and they're just like, look, buddy, you're not getting anything for that. But yeah, going back to it, I was about to say in short, but it's still long-winded of me. Um, but yeah, so I avoided BattleBots for a while, but then I recently saw it kind of popping up on my social media, and I was just like, shit, man, this thing looks awesome as hell. And then I watched and of course the algorithm is just feeding into that, and so I'm just like, yeah, I guess I'm back into BattleBots. Let's do this.
I mean, I would pay money to go in person to see like if like let's say BattleBots continues to grow and progress,
I
and like
think it will.
I hope it does, because I just want to see like you remember that movie Real Steel,
Hmm.
where it's the boxing robots? And
Yeah, there's gonna be an evolution to it. To maybe I don't know if it's ever gonna get that crazy. It might.
I hope. Like I just still I want it to be like remote control operated kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Or I didn't really like the idea of, oh well, if I could just put on these like gloves on, because I mean I've seen like people talk about people playing in these tournaments for like League of Legends and stuff, or like and they have they're cheating because they have like hotkeys or some kind of other program like
Mhm.
hidden in there, and so it's like I like the idea of like giant like Gundam like robots or is Gundam?
Gundam's a little bit taller, but I
Yeah,
know what you mean.
that's a whole different level. But
I mean, that's pretty close to what you're going with.
I would.
though.
I mean,
Man-operated robot.
Listen, if we can make robots that big that can move around and do all that, at that point we
Oh,
probably are already in space. So basically, they're like just basically imagine space coliseums with
yeah.
Gundams. That would be pretty epic.
Or like you can like like if you're like
So that's what the dark side of the moon's for.
that. So you're dead. CIA is coming for you now.
Ah!
Let them come.
I'm gonna stay off camera.
They can't know what sea bass looks like now. But I mean, like that would be so cool. I mean, just I would be terrified of like if it is like the Gundam like series where you're like in the middle of them. So I remember there was like a rule they couldn't punch in the chest because of that. I think, or maybe it was a different anime.
I was gonna say for Gundam, I don't think that they really care because those are intergalactic fights.
Yeah, like,
And
they're
it's more
fighting
so
a war.
they're legitimately fighting a war. I think they are actually, in fact, aiming for the chest.
And
If
it's
that's
like,
where the
kill
pilot
'em.
is.
But I mean, like that kind of stuff. Or having like, but I mean, like, or if it was like the Real Steel like reference where you're like ringside and you're fighting with your like and it mimics you and stuff. Like the only downside to that is just like the lag. Like every gamer's worst fear is lag, glitching, and all that stuff. I mean, like, oh no, my connection was lost. It's like, what are you gonna do? Stop the fight? Let it reconnect, reboot? I gotta update. I got a software update. God damn it, Windows, Microsoft.
I
Like-
don't. I mean, again, I think that that would be really cool to see if it happens in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that kind of reminds me of a very obscure movie. I think it was called. It has Oh, I'm blanking on his name, so I'm just gonna completely skip over that.
Are you thinking of Pacific Rim?
No, Pacific Rim is Guillermo del Toro. I'm thinking of a movie with. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the actor's name right
Was-
now. I think the movie was called Gamer. And the idea is basically like prisoners were put into a video game simulation and someone could control them. Gerard Butler.
Yeah, I was about to say Sparta guy.
Yeah, Gerard Butler. Actually, so that's kind of what you're. That's what
Yeah.
it's making me think of.
That was, he's talking about Seabass?
I've seen that. It was a great movie.
It was like one of those obscure but really good movies with Gerard Butler, and the whole thing was he was like a prisoner for some reason.
Prisoners, and basically it's like it's the same. It's basically Suicide Squad, but
Yeah.
they're being controlled by someone playing video games.
And he finds out who's controlling him, and he's like, "Hey, bud, I'm actually like the fucking guy, so let me take it from here."
Yeah. Gerard Butler is just like, "Hey, I'm Gerard Butler," and the guy's like, "Say less."
Say less, go for it. I mean, like that shit was. Oh man, that's a good movie too. I gotta go back and watch that. But I mean, just like the way that's gonna progress. I mean,
some people like that because if it's a full body controlled game,
Yeah.
at that point, the stereotype of the lazy gamer,
The lazy
goes
fat
away as
gamer,
well,
yeah.
because you have to have the full body. You have to be in some sort of shape.
At that point, it's Ready Player One.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's one thing about like the gaming community. Like I'm not that into it, or active in it, obviously, but like the fact that people with disabilities can still play with a controller and like,
Mhm.
I mean,
Accessibility is a big thing.
Yeah.
It's important for everyone to feel like they have a chance to participate, feel included, and be able to enjoy.
yeah, 100%. I mean, they talk the best trash like that. I love it so much. There's this one guy that he's like, I don't know if he's got like some kind of form of dwarfism or something like that, but he's like kind of wheelchair bound, but he plays and his hands are small and stuff, so he like, but he wrecks people, and he's like, yeah, I'm not, I can't even think of all the horrendous things
But
he
just
says.
yeah, but he just starts talking like mad trash, and he's
But
like,
still.
but he's still winning.
Yeah, and still at the end of the game, he's like, all right, bud, GG. Like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
If you
love
wanna
that
see, if you
stuff.
want to see people go absolutely insane, granted too, there's also another level of like, do you actually know what's going on and what people are doing? But fighting games, it is
Mm.
insane to watch those like competitions.
Oh, yeah, like the Mortal Kombat and stuff.
Mortal Kombat is one thing, but I think it's a whole nother level of Marvel versus Capcom.
Oh.
Those guys are
Those are insane.
insane.
I've watched a couple of those. Those guys are insane because that's an unforgiving game from every clip I've seen too.
Yes.
One mistake, you're done.
You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute.
Well, and it's just, I love the crossover. I think they added Omni-Man, or they added Homelander and Omni-Man. Is it Omni-Man from Invincible?
Are you thinking of?
I don't think that's Marvel. And
I think you're
Capcom.
thinking. Yeah, I think you're thinking of just Call of Duty, including it was Starlight and Homelander from The Boys.
Yeah, I thought it was some fighting game where you could,
Isn't
like
Injustice adding a bunch
maybe
of
it
characters?
was
Is Injustice
Injustice.
doing that?
Even outside of DC, I think Injustice is starting to add.
I
Like
think
it's,
so.
it's like general like sci-fi.
Well, I've only seen. I've got. Well, are they working on Injustice 3? They just released Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah, well, that's the re-release, right?
Mortal
If
Kombat 1, I
they
think, is a remaster or like a reboot /
Yeah.
remaster. It's basically the original game
With
like,
all the fixins and some more.
with the current. It's current, which is upsetting to me because I still have Mortal Kombat XL, which is the 10th game, and really loved it. Wanted to get Mortal Kombat 11. Was waiting for the complete edition to come out, with all the extra characters. And when it did, almost immediately, like 2 months later, they announced Mortal Kombat 1, and I'm like, I still need to get Mortal Kombat 11. Stop.
Come on, guys.
Well, that's where if Injustice 3 is in the dock, then this would be like the golden age of fighting games again.
100%.
Because it's what four or five fighting games that are releasing basically back to back. 'Cause didn't Marvel vs. Capcom had like a huge one like a year ago.
No,
and then
actually, no, it would be way too late. I was gonna say, would Kevin Conroy have had a chance to maybe record some lines for that one? But I really doubt it. If it's still in the
yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. You made my childhood.
But I mean, dude, but you know what would be even crazier? This is going where we get you really long-winded. So,
So you heard it here first, Seabass. It wasn't me that said it. He did.
I mean, but
Excuse
wouldn't
my
it be
voice
really
crack.
awesome if you could do like one of those completely immersive like games, but you could build like with D&D?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the idea of being able to like that would probably keep me in line a lot better than for those who don't know, Luke is my dungeon master, and I'm not afraid he's the best dungeon master I've ever had.
Game Master, Dungeon Master. Yeah, for Dungeons and Dragons, it is. It's a lot of fun.
I mean,
isn't that what Baldur's Gate is? I don't know anything about
No, you're
this
good.
game actually.
what's
but
Baldur's Gate?
I haven't told you about it because you're in school.
Thank
because
you.
I feel like
He would get as lost as literally everyone else on the internet is. For
yeah,
that game.
it's kind of a D&D
touched.
esque
So
game, and
so-
I knew if I told you about it, you would get lost in this game while you're still at
So
school.
I
so the
apolog-
moment you finish school,
Yeah.
I'll let you free raid, go
so
for it.
I
but-
apologize.
Thanks, son.
I apologize to all the hardcore lore nuts for Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast. But my understanding of Baldur's Gate is, again, I'm just an average dungeon master. Please take this with a grain of salt. I only know so much, and the internet is vast and infinite. But Baldur's Gate, in Dungeons and Dragons, there's like worlds and everything that you can create because the Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes them, like is constantly putting out different content. But there is actually like a core world with core monsters and everything like that. That's like the lore of Dungeons and Dragons core, and one of those great cities is Baldur's Gate. That's where you get characters like Minsk and Boo from, which for those of you who don't know, he's like an adventuring character that's basically been a part of every single Baldur's Gate in some way, shape, or form. Although this time, I'm not sure if he was voiced last time, but this time voiced by Matthew Mercer. So
Huh.
good plugs there.
Good plugs.
He's everywhere. You laugh, but it's true.
It's
like,
true.
yeah.
It's funny because it is true.
But I'm never upset whenever I find him or any of the Critical Role cast there. I mean, really just any of the celebrities in general. I'm starting to try and find more of who's this voice, who's this voice, who's this voice. And another quick sidebar: do either of you guys have the same feeling? It's like watching Mark Hamill when he voices Joker. It's just like you've associated a voice with a character so much, even when it's coming from the source, it feels wrong because it's not that character.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like the Joker, in particular with Mark Hamill, he's just like I grew up on the animated series, and I never knew it was him. Like I remember my parents showing me like, "Oh, let's watch Star Wars together," and I was like, "Oh, Luke."
Yeah.
It was awesome.
He originally wanted to play Mr. Freeze on that series.
Really?
Yeah.
That would have been a waste.
They cast him, and then they were just like, okay, we're gonna try a couple of different characters.
Can you
have
do
fun.
the Joker's laugh? And then
Well, actually, here's the thing. So this is how hard of a fan I am. Like I've looked at some of the behind the scenes for that, and for Mark Hamill, they literally gave him a picture of the Joker he was going to be voicing, and on it was just like written in pencil or marker or whatever. It was just not Jack Nicholson.
not Jack Nicholson.
Because this series came out shortly
That's
after
true,
the original
yeah.
Batman movie starring Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Yeah, I mean it was good, and I love that Batman and stuff. I mean, the funniest Batman. Not to get too sidetracked.
We've sidetracked from the sidetrack from the
Oh, the
sidetrack.
sidetrack, yeah.
We're actually back on course.
We're actually, I think we're correct. Course corrected
You
on
take
that.
enough tangents, you'll get back.
Well, I mean, I remember the funniest Batman movie was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as
I think
Mr.
that's just
Freeze.
Batman and Robin.
And stuff. But the funniest thing was when you go back and look at the people breaking down and like giving you all the little Easter eggs. Well, first off, I noticed it's like, why does the bat suit have such defined and
Features.
like the nipples? Like, why were the nipples so defined? It's like,
Listen, not even George Clooney can answer that.
yeah. And then you realize that he's wearing like Air Jordans as the makeup and costume people had it like put in there, and they're just like, oh, we're just gonna make it look like a boot and stuff. But yeah, I mean,
Makes you really wonder what the budget was for that movie.
yeah.
Because it seems like they had enough, but I'm not sure that they spent it in all the right spots.
Well, I mean, also to get George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and because that movie came out like what, like early
I wanna s-
2000?
Was it? I want to say 90s because I
Maybe it
know. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. Again, internet, forgive me. I'm a Batman fan, but I don't know all the dates exactly. I think the original Michael Keaton one was 89. Was it?
Sounds right.
And then the second one with Batman, Catwoman, and Penguin was, I want to say, early 90s. And then Val Kilmer and George Clooney were like late 90s.
Oh yeah.
That was my understanding. Though
Yeah.
if you want a really hot take, if we're really trying to fire up the fan base here,
Ooh, fire him up.
Robert Pattinson is my favorite Batman, followed by Ben Affleck. Christian Bale is not the best Batman. I know that's probably gonna start some fights.
Look. I was with you, and then you lost me.
Hmm.
But I mean, I understand. Like, I definitely think Robert Pattinson did a phenomenal job.
Hmm.
I think he really emphasized the like like they dropping him in there as like what they say is like 2 years into Batman at that point.
Yeah, so I liked both of those. I liked both of those actors playing Batman for these reasons. So starting with Christian Bale, just immediately addressing that. Christian Bale, like he's a great Batman. I'm not gonna lie, like he's like, but at the end of the day, watching the Batman movies, I'm just like, if you take like the context of Batman out of it, so take out Batman, take out Harvey Dent, Commissioner Gordon, and all the Rogues Gallery, you still have a really great Christopher Nolan movie about a guy just going on a one-man mission to save the city. You repaint all those characters with different insert whatever action hero characters or like thought-provoking like social commentary villains, and it's still a great Christopher Nolan movie. But the
Yeah.
reason I like Ben Affleck and Robert Pattinson is a little bit more of comic adaptation. Granted, I understand Christopher Nolan was going for like a more grounded and realistic kind of Batman, so
Yeah.
can't knock him for that. Though it's the fact that Robert Pattinson's Batman really played into Batman Year One, the comic, where it's very noir. There's a lot of like it's Gotham feels like a living and breathing part of the story, where like there are moments where it's very dark, very gritty, and the environment is as much a part of the story as Batman is just Batmaning.
Yeah.
But he's
Batman is just Batman.
well, for
Put
what it's
that on a
worth, too,
shirt.
he was very much the detective that everyone always wants him to be. Whereas in the Dark Knight series, like it was basically him just finding someone and basically screaming at them until they told him what he
Swear to me.
exactly. So, but Robert Pattinson's Batman, and I know Christian Bale's Batman also, especially in the Dark Knight, like did the ballistics thing,
Yeah.
and was kind of creatively thinking around crime scene scenarios. But again, it focused more on just big picture, and it's more of like Batman was a theme. He was an idea, which is very much what the entire premise of the Dark Knight series is.
Yeah.
Whereas Robert Pattinson's Batman is more of like he is just a single guy, and it's very early on into his career as a vigilante. Crime is rampant in Gotham, and the characters all kind of organically mesh into each other, and like they all have their stories, but they all feel like very much who they are. And Robert Pattinson as Batman is just like he looked and fit the bill, but he also just like he carried that sense of brooding and just self-loathing that like early Batman had. and I felt like that is also kind of what brought out an element of it. And then the fact that you see Arkham with Joker, you see the Riddler, you see you see Catwoman and Penguin. They all feel like kind of realistic characters, but also like they're not so outlandish that it feels off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of. I can't remember. I know she's Lenny Kravitz's daughter, but she was beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. Didn't sell me on the acting part.
For Catwoman,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's more so like she was like I think she played her character really well. Catwoman in like again Batman Year One, and I keep saying that just because like the reason
Yeah.
I love both Pattinson and Affleck is because of the comics that they're based on.
I mean, I thought Anne Hathaway did a.
She did no, she did good. That's what I mean. Again, but I go back to my original
Yeah.
statement of like take the Batman paint job off of it, and you still just have a really good Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan movie.
I think that's a
And
good foundation to like kind of judge it on.
That's kind of my basis of it, and the reason why I love Ben Affleck more than Christian Bale as Batman is because he plays Batman in his Dark Knight Returns era,
Mm.
which for those of you who aren't as familiar in the comics, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding like the whole like
Go.
actually
Send it. Send it.
but the Dark Knight Returns is a comic that was made by I want to say Frank Miller back in the 80s, and it was the entire premise of like Batman is to the point of retiring, though crime has like slowly grown back up after all of his years of work, and he's basically at that point where it's just like he's still old enough to be able to he's still young enough to be able to go out onto the streets, but he's so old that it's like if he's not committing to his decisions, it is going to cost him dearly,
Yeah.
and he gets his ass handed to him so many times. And the reason that I really like that Batman is because it brings a lot of closure for a lot of like some of his major villains. Like there's a scene with him and the Joker, and it's like their final confrontation, and it's Joker and Batman, years of their entire career behind them, and they're both just like at each other's throats, and Joker is just like after all these years still taunting him, but he knows which buttons to push. He knows what like he's there to like basically still try and make his statement. Heath Ledger Joker, like he's still trying to get Batman to push it too far.
Yeah.
But after all these years, like, can Batman still hold his own, or how is it going to shake out? And the reason I like Ben Affleck is because he plays that same type of Batman. Granted, Dawn of Justice wasn't the best movie. Snyder Cut was better than the original Justice League with
So much better.
Oh my gosh.
So much better.
If you have not watched it, I know it's 4 hours, but Lord of the Rings was also that long, and you were able to sit through that.
Yeah. There's
I
just.
watched the Snyder's cut first before I saw.
Yeah,
the
you did.
one- the-
No, you did it right.
Without the director's cut, and I couldn't believe everything that was being removed
Mhm.
because I mean they removed basically the whole plot of Cyborg.
Yeah.
Cyborg's like entire plot and characters.
and he's
essentially
he's supposed to be the heart of the team in that
Mhm.
entire movie.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say, go watch the Snyder Cut. I know it's 4 hours, but it actually breaks itself off in chapters and has an intermission.
So you should be able.
You
to,
should be able to pause it, go away from it, come back to it. If someone is willing to sit through Lord of the Rings extended trilogies marathons, then you can do Snyder
Called
Cut.
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same energy. It's
I mean-
actually, I think, what was it? I only know this because I used to look at like movie run times when I was young. Because like when you're a kid, you're trying to find a movie that's long enough for you to be able to watch it before bed, but not so long that the parents
yeah.
won't deny it.
It's like I needed to be right that 2.5 hours to 3 hour mark.
The King Kong movie that came out like in the mid 2000s
With Jack Black.
yeah, which was exactly 3 hours and 9 minutes. And so again,
I mean,
so that's one of those where I'm just like, if you're willing to sit down for that, like commit 1 extra hour and pause.
yeah.
You're not going to see the Snyder Cut in theaters.
for a
You're
reason.
at home. Yeah, you can watch it from the comfort of your home. Break it up into chapters. Watch it over some days. It's basically like the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I mean, dude, speaking of this, the theaters, I haven't been to a theater since I don't fucking know when the last time I went to see a movie in the theaters, and I kind of miss it.
It's been actually I went and saw Spider-Verse, the new Spider-Verse movie in theaters, and phenomenal. But yeah, going back to the whole Batman argument, that's why I say Affleck and Patterson are my personal favorites over Bale.
The only reason I would in that three would pick Christian Bale's Batman is because of the trilogy.
Mhm.
I think I think he had said prior to the third movie coming out, the Dark Knight Rises or whatever.
Mhm.
No, it's Batman Begins.
Batman Begins, Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, and so it's like when he's fighting Bane, like that whole comeback arc that's in that movie is like,
Yeah.
Like that
That felt very much like what it was. And again, I don't want to be the guy that's like so diehard in the comics that I can't appreciate like different things. But like the whole purpose of Bane is to like again, I think Christopher Nolan did really good to grab the core themes or elements of the different characters. Of like you know, Scarecrow is a foil to Batman and Bruce Wayne's sense of fear, and that's what really drove him as a character initially. Joker is basically that theme of chaos, whereas Batman is the theme of order, and then you throw in Harvey Dent, who's literally just like a coin flip away from either or. That's why they all meshed so well. In the third movie, Bane is the antithesis of Batman in the sense of just like how strong and how much are you willing to commit to saving your city, and is your city even worth saving when there's millions out there who are suffering?
Yeah, I mean, it's speaking of Batman, we're gonna go keep going on because we got two Batman lovers here.
Yeah.
So it's like I think one of the if they're gonna do anything in the next couple years with Chris Patterson,
Robert Patterson,
Robert Patterson.
Edward
Is it
Cullen,
Patterson or Pattinson?
Patter, I think.
Patter. Okay.
I don't know. Actually, you know what? We have the
Fact check.
We have the technology.
We have the time.
Let us
We have the technology.
Let us consult the Googles.
But yeah, I mean, I think the smart thing to do if you could get him signed on to a long-term deal, kind of like they did with the Marvel.
It's Pattinson.
Okay.
Pattinson.
There's not an R in the middle, so it's Pattinson.
Okay, so Pattinson.
Yep. Also spelled Cullen. Cullen, like Edward Cullen, like Twilight.
Well, because going back a little bit to which was like the best Batman, I would say my only problem with Robert Pattinson's depiction is like he does a great Batman. I feel like he does a terrible Bruce.
I think that was intentional.
You think it was intentional because it's so early?
It's so early. Like he is Batman. Like he doesn't know who Bruce is or how Bruce fits into it. That's why I think Christian Bale's Batman also did kind of like the same thing. When he was first starting out, he was just a guy with a mask on and like trying to figure out where he's going to be. And even you actually see a little bit of that in The Dark Knight where he's literally sleeping through meetings. Granted, I know that was a bit of a ruse, but that was supposed to make it look like he's kind of like, the aloof billionaire. But I think there was an element of that where it's just like, no, he actually needed the hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was one of the cool things with that about like all the movies. I didn't see it so much with the Ben Affleck one, in my opinion, where it was like it made him human.
Well, see, but that's where I would say Ben Affleck's probably the best Bruce.
Yes.
Not a good Batman, but
I'm
he's
rich.
the best Bruce.
Oh,
there is.
absolutely.
What's your
100% agree.
superpower? I'm rich.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's true. That's genuinely. I mean, Batman and Tony Stark, and Iron Man are both basically the same type of hero. It's just their modum operandi, as it were.
Because I mean, that's the thing with his with the
one of them's a trained assassin, but whatever.
Right? I mean, they all went
Tony Stark it didn't go that hard.
Yeah.
All right.
He was that rich guy that knew martial arts just in case he got kidnapped, which did happen, but didn't serve him any
Did
good.
he even know martial arts? I thought he just downloaded them into Jarvis.
He did.
He just downloaded all the different ways of fighting stuff.
Into Jarvis. Yeah, and that's why he beat Captain in Civil Wars because after that, like he was just.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, he doesn't actually know how to fight. It's just his robot knows how to fight.
And he's just kind of like a loose
goose in there, just like, oh, please block that punch.
I think he knows. I think he probably also may know some element of it. I
It's
mean,
like
let's not take away the fact that Tony Stark is still technically a smart enough character to be able to read and understand different characters
fighting and
styles.
martial arts. I mean, and to be that physically fit, you gotta have to. I mean, I'm sure he's doing like whatever the rich people do. I do Krav Maga, or
it's called a super soldier serum.
It's called super soldier serum and technology. But I mean, like with the Dawn of Justice and Batman versus Superman, like the fact that Batman, on average, doesn't go out in that mech suit, especially later on. I think with Robert Pattinson, whatever. Like the smart thing would be for him to go like do 2 more movies. Kind of, I don't think they can reintroduce the Joker yet.
They've technically already done that.
But Jared Leto doesn't count.
Oh no, I'm talking about Pattinson's Joker.
I didn't. My memory escapes me on that.
Yeah, no. Batman goes and talks with Joker, and basically shows him the Riddler case, and is just like, "What can you make of this?"
Who is playing the Joker? Was that that was the scene at the in the jail.
There's the jail scene. Yeah, there's
not the one where you start singing again.
I don't remember. There was also a couple of outtakes for the movie. I'm also like because
Could have been a deep cut
I
outtake.
ate I ate so much of that movie up when it first came out, like all the expanded content and stuff like that. But
Because I think
I do recall. I want to say like during the movie at one point he goes to Joker and is just like, "Here's Riddler's
I'm
case. What can you
looking
make
at the
of it?"
jail scene in my head that I can remember about it, and I think you're right.
Mhm.
But what I was saying is be really, if I could have it my way, is that you work with him, get like 2 more movies. I really would love to see the reintroduction of Mr. Freeze.
Mhm.
I like Mr. Freeze.
I think I heard a rumor somewhere that they're looking at maybe introducing Mr. Freeze into the Pattinson series.
I mean, Mr. Freeze would be good, and then
Penguin's also getting his own like mini series.
Penguin would be good.
No, Penguin's actually getting a TV series.
What's
think of it's going to be like Soprano style, but basically like Batman and
Dude, if
Gotham
you
themed.
get the guy from The Sopranos face on a short body,
I mean, I think the guy, his name is escaping me. The guy who played Penguin in the new movie, like I thought he was phenomenal.
oh, dude, well, they had so much makeup and stuff on him, like, because he's actually a really handsome guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd love to see Mr. Freeze come back in, but then kind of evolve this new Batman into where you do let him age, and then whatever young startup actors available at the time, like what Tom Holland was for Spider-Man. We bring if they can cast and contract and get someone that's not crazy like the Flash ended up being. Like, good God, how that guy stays the Flash is beyond me.
Mhm.
But it must be the Illuminati. But
Haven't seen the new movie. I don't know that I want to see that one.
I don't really want to support it after all the crap I've heard about him. But
Yeah.
but if the Batman, if you can keep him going, and then it'll give Robert Pattinson, whatever his last name is, it's going to give him an out to where he can go back to doing other roles and stuff. But you kind of age him up to where he becomes old man Bruce, and then you get the Terry McGinnis
I was
character.
gonna say it'd be very
Batman
interesting to see.
Beyond.
Very fun to see if Batman Beyond.
Because I mean, eventually that's where it's got to go to.
I mean, it
Maybe.
depends how complex you want to get with the Robins, to be honest.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
Because there's 4,
There's 4.
5.
There's the one. Well, the one that becomes the Red Hood.
There's technically 6.
Well,
There's-
are you cutting the female Robin in that?
Yes.
Okay.
There's two. There's two.
Female Robin.
There are 2 girl
Yes.
Robins. Both of which their names are escaping me. One was blonde. The other one was in The Dark Knight Returns.
Why,
Mhm.
How is there a female Robin and that's not just Batgirl?
That Batgirl is Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because Batgirl's her own thing. She has no interest in actually taking over the role of Batman. Meanwhile, any Robin is the potential that they will become Batman.
And I think Damian at this point is like kind of working his way up to being that.
Because yeah, I mean
because-
there was Dick
Dick Grayson, Jason Todd,
and then
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake. Sorry, that one was
Yep.
blank. I mean, and then
Tim Drake's the one that died, right?
no, that's Jason.
That's Jason.
Tim Drake dies as well.
Really?
Depending on which series or which timeline.
It's well. It's also
mean-
so. Here's where I say like again, comic fan, but I'm not so diehard that I keep up with literally every aspect of it.
That's my thing. I take a lot of my content from like a comics explain channel or something where they just go over different comic series. So I've never actually sat down to read them myself.
Comic
Yeah.
Historian is
But-
really fun to listen to.
Yes, but like there's Tim Drake in one of the stories. He is captured by the Joker and exposed to the laughing gas, and he actually
becomes the new Joker, right?
he becomes the new Joker, but it's not directly because of Batman. It's actually
that-
from Jason Todd, the Red Hood, coming back, and he kills the Joker for what he did.
So I feel like they
Ooh, it's so thick.
they kind of teased that plot point. I don't know if this was because the comics were there at the time. It was, I think it was in the movie The Joker Returns, Batman Beyond the Joker Returns, where they actually have that exact same plot where Tim Drake is captured by Joker and slowly psychologically tortured and exposed
Yes.
to a little bit of laughing gas to the point where he becomes a mini Joker.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He gets like infected. They try and send him to an asylum to help him, and eventually he just snaps.
Well,
Mhm.
that was the worst part about the animated series that they can't show anyone die. So it was
which
like,
makes Batman really tough to do.
well, exactly. But
Which
it's
is
like,
also why a lot of the guns in the 90s were lasers.
Yeah.
And also why in the Spider-Man, the '90s Spider-Man series, when they had the episode with Morbius, they couldn't obviously make him a vampire that bites your neck and drinks your blood. That's why they gave him the little suckers on his hand to suck out the plasma of individuals, which almost arguably is grosser and
Well, that's what I was
weirder.
going to say. It's like that's almost worse. Like with the Batman series, the animated series, they couldn't have the Joker kill anyone, so the laughing gas, they just sit there with that smile on their face. It's like, dude, as a child, that was worse. Like ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Just sitting there laughing, and it's just like that's honestly worse.
That became its own element, and that's also something that's very iconic to the character. now.
Unintentional, but very like, whoa. But
Yeah.
I mean, well, that and then, but I just like, dude, honestly, when it comes to animated Batman, I really do love the Batman Beyond series. I think they got a little lost in the end because they were trying to figure out if they're going to get continued and where does it go from there. Because I can't for the life of me remember how it wraps up.
I think the Return of Joker is kind of like the canonical like end to the Batman Beyond series.
Yeah.
Though they did reprise it in the Justice League Unlimited series, and for what it's worth, is probably one of the best Batman Beyond episodes when Terry comes and talks with Amanda Waller about like why
Who Batman was.
who Batman actually was.
My favorite part of that whole scene is she's like, wasn't hard to find his DNA. It was all over town. And he's just looking at it. He's like, not like that. Like, she's like, he's bleeding everywhere. We all.
That's the thing, too. Like, and I mean, that was her whole point. It's just like he got slower.
Yeah.
And that was what made him start the Batman Beyond program.
Yeah, but I mean, I know you, Luke, Seabass, I know y'all are huge Batman fans. And Flash is your, like, your main two if you had to pick.
But Flash is so confusing that I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I don't claim to know really any Flash stories because it's too confusing.
All I know is the Flashpoint Paradox, which I feel like is like the Flash story that everyone knows, and that's about it.
I know a lot of generals on that, but even the details I get fuzzy here and there.
Because I mean, I don't know. I'm still like, I still love the idea of Superman, like as much like that.
So boring.
Yeah, obviously he needs it because he's not crazy. He's just an alien, and I don't know. It's like if you ask me, it's like I'm still gonna say if you get an unhinged, no nothing holding Superman back, obviously he can beat Batman. But without his moral code.
I don't know, man.
Go ahead, Seabass. You had a thought.
I mean, Batman's got the hacks abilities, man.
I mean, but yeah.
You give him any prep time. I mean, the
That's
whole
always-
war
that's-
in the movie is because
That's-
Batman's holding on to this little shard of kryptonite that Superman is so threatened by a small shard.
So for what it's worth, that's usually the argument for Batman versus Superman in every instance of just like, give Batman enough time to prep. Give Batman enough time to prep. And I'm like, yeah.
If Batman doesn't know
Well,
Clark snapped and he's
that's
just sitting
true,
on the
but I
tower
mean-
and just.
I mean, and that's literally why Batman in The Dark Knight Returns beats Superman. Because he actually beats Superman to prove a point, not to actually, like, stop Superman.
Yeah, it's like just to like maybe. Oh, what? You forgot what it must feel like to be human?
No, actually, it was a little bit more, like, I guess not, it was kind of like more psychologically kind of like drawing for Superman, and I know there's a better term for it, but it's all I can think of at the moment. Basically, Bruce gets him to a point in the Dark Knight Returns suit, the big metal suit. Eventually gets him to a point where like they're like fighting face to face. Like Superman's taking it easy on him because he's like, "You're old, Bruce. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to do this." And eventually Bruce is just like, "Okay." And so he hits him with. I was about to do the Spider-Man thwip.
Here's some kryptonite.
Yeah, he hits him with like a little inoculant, which was basically just like
Ground up.
powderized,
Yeah.
powderized kryptonite, and like Clark is like starts to slow down, and like how he always does when he's exposed to kryptonite, and Bruce is just like, "Do you feel that? Your own mortality coming to catch up to you."
Yeah, just
And
like,
he literally is saying this. He's like, "Don't worry, it'll wear off eventually, but just know that I could have made it a lot stronger. I could have made the binding agent stronger. I could have made it a lot firmer." And at that point, he just starts beating into Superman as he's weakened.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "But I want you to remember this. Like, even in your most private moments, I want you to remember that I was the one man who beat you."
Yeah.
And that was his entire point. Because after that, like Bruce drops from a heart
Well,
attack.
and that's the thing. Everyone's like, Superman's boring, and I'm like, oh, so he's like he's got a normal brain, like he's not like psychotically like tortured and tormented, and it's like, why is that such a bad thing?
I think
he can beat everyone until it's another alien. That's why it's kind of boring because he has no villain.
What?
He has no
Doomsday?
villain. Doomsday's not his villain. Doomsday is the Justice League's villain.
Okay.
Technically.
The only one that's his is like basically Zod. General Zod's almost the only person
Yeah, 'cause
that's really
Darkseid- 'cause-
Superman's villain, and that's another
So,
Kryptonian.
But do you want it to be
That's
like you want him to go like down the Viltrumite like?
No, I'm saying he just beats everyone else so easily until it becomes another alien.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's
the
the go-
only human that's beat him is Batman.
I think it's the Goku equation of just like who's gonna beat Goku? Really, the next villain until they don't.
Yeah.
But
So-
I think the reason that Superman is an interesting character now is more so just the fact that they are much more introspective with him. It's less of like we know he can beat anybody, but where's his head, where's his heart during all this? And I think they're really exploring that a lot more with the Clark and Lois series on HBO Max. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but
Yeah.
I have been hearing and seeing little tidbits, and it looks like it's mostly like it's trying to ground Superman's humanity because it's very much like in Justice League Unlimited, like Superman, he literally says, "I'm like, I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard." Like
Dude, when him
That's
and
one of his
Doomsday are
best lines. I
that
will
is-
give him that.
that is
Yeah, when
definitely
hit-
one of his best lines.
when he
I live in
decides-
a world of paper mache and cardboard. Just best line ever coming out of it.
like when he decides to actually let loose on Doomsday in the animated series, and he goes through all that, he's just like, I never get to actually hold, like I've never gotten to really let loose, but you can take it, can't you,
Yeah,
big
what
guy?
we have here is a rare opportunity where I can cut loose.
Yeah. Oh my god, I loved it. I loved it because it's like that's the thing. It's like when you're basically like in the movie when his parents are sending him, it's like he'll be like a god to them, and he comes down and he finds, you know, like that he has his humanity, and like that's the kind of thing. It's like, oh, he's boring. It's like fuck off. Like it's like he's like what? It's to me, it's interesting that when you have someone that has almost like like you said, the Goku factor, where he's just got unlimited power. Like him, Vegeta, any of those got like Super Saiyans could just and
It's
like
just eventually they will win.
yeah. And I mean, it's just like they have
Unless
so
it's
much.
Broly.
Not unless it's Broly.
He's done wrong so many times.
Dude, we all know
Done wrong.
Gohan was the most done wrong of
I
any.
mean, yeah.
Like that was the bad. But I mean, like that was bad.
Sorry, you both just had a visceral reaction when I said Broly, and I'm just like, yeah.
Sorry, man.
No. It's justified. It's justified. But it's just one of those two. I was just like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all feeling that, yeah, kind of moment.
But I mean, I don't know. It's just like I think if they were going to revamp, what's up?
I was gonna say, quick aside. I don't know if this is something to pause or that you can cut out later, but I do need to use the.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. That's what it's there for. It's just like it is what it is. Just I don't know. There's got to be something to Superman, like so that they can make it like more entertaining.
Keep talking.
Oh, what you do?
I'm just grabbing a notebook because I realize I haven't done that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, granted, there hasn't been much to really take notes on.
It's been
And
pretty
really, when I go to edit, I usually end up just watching the whole video again anyway.
yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm not missing too much, but
Well, I feel like it's a smart way to do it, just so that we can get like a fresh, like you take it, we record it, you go back and rewatch it, it gives you like that fresh lens,
yeah,
and so.
for sure.
But yeah, man, I don't know. There's got to be a way to like I get all the gripes about Superman being lame.
Here's the problem.
Here's,
He's not even the strongest Kryptonian on Earth. Kara is.
well, I still don't really get the like. Oh, she's my cousin. Like,
Yeah.
why is she stronger?
It's just, I mean, it's said that she is, though. There's multiple fights where it's Kara's like the last one standing, where even Superman Kal-El has fallen before her.
Well, that's
Even in fights against people like Doomsday, who I think you're confusing for Darkseid.
Maybe,
Maybe
yeah,
he goes
yeah,
by
yeah.
both names. I'm not really sure. But yeah,
maybe it's
Darkseid.
Darkseid, not Doom. I don't know. I just
But yeah, they're fighting Darkseid in one of them, or they're fighting I can't remember the guy's name, but I told you about him, the one that's like from the antimatter world. There's like the real matter world and then the antimatter.
it's like dark Superman or whatever it is.
No, it's just it's I mean, the guy acts more like a deity. He's very similar to Darkseid.
I don't know. I just like the thing is like I don't really subscribe much to the Superman like comic books. I just go based off the animated series because that's what I grew up on. Like I said, like Luke said earlier with the rose-colored glasses, like that's the best one to me. I mean, like it's just I don't know. It's just I love the idea of Superman. I guess is what it is. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's like I want to be Superman. I don't want to be Batman. I want to be Superman. Because if I was Superman, I would not be as kind. I definitely wouldn't work at the fucking Daily Planet.
Well, see, but that's where like half the problem I have is that the old Superman was the Boy Scout, the good boy.
Why is that a bad thing?
it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just a boring thing.
Everyone wants chaos, calamity, and like hurt and pain.
I think that's why again I
Microphone.
I mean,
this whole point, the whole point of this podcast thing is that you're talking into a mic.
you like Homelander because he's a dark, realistic
I
look at a superhero.
no, I don't
and
like Homelander.
Superman's just
I
a Boy Scout. That's
Dude,
a little
So,
boring.
so
Homelander's
can
a
I-
butch.
Can I counter the Boy Scout argument?
Sure.
It's
I-
not that he's necessarily like yes, there is the argument of him being a Boy Scout, but I think the reason that that's so done and that's why they're trying to evolve his character now so much is because it's like it's kind of what I was saying just a moment ago. It's just like what do you do to someone who can do anything?
Yeah.
And that's where it's like it's I say okay. So I think the best way to have you guys seen the new Jumanji series with The Rock and Kevin Hart?
I've seen
I've
clips.
seen bits and pieces of it, but I didn't sit down to watch all of it.
So the way that they wrote the characters in the Jumanji game is that again 6 degrees from somewhere else, but I'll come full circle in a moment. But in Jumanji, it's basically like it's the same premise as the '90s movie where the Jumanji game takes a life of its own, and whoever plays it will get sucked into it in some way, shape, or form. In the original game, it was just a board game, and like the world changed around the players.
Yeah.
In the new movies, it's a video game, or like it's adopted with the times, and
Yeah.
it became a video game, and some students are playing it, and it was part of like basically like a. It was like one of those old TVs on the cart kind of things.
Mhm.
The game just happened to be there, and it was part of. And it's the setup for the movie is like as punishment or as part of detention for these different types of students from the different walks of life. You had the jock, the nerd,
The Breakfast Club, essentially.
essentially it's its own breakfast club. But really the reason I bring this up is because you have the jock and the nerd kind of pairing. They were both friends at one point in time, but the jock went on to do football and
Lift
become
weights.
but because of it, like his grades dropped, and he has his nerd friend and I'm forgetting their name, so I apologize for that. But he has the nerd friend basically do his homework, and like their friendship is kind of transactional in that regard.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like I protect you, you do your homework.
Not even that. It's
Oh,
just more so.
damn.
It's like it's a disassociation. Like basically, it's just like thanks for doing my homework, man. Like that's really about it.
Damn. Not even
Um,
protection.
But it's one. That's not really the point. The point being is basically like the nerd kid has like a lot of self doubt, and because he really likes a girl, and that's kind of like another plot point in the movie. But
Yeah.
he has a lot of self doubt and a lot of like basically internal drama kind of going on. But when it comes to playing Jumanji, all the characters are sucked in. They're given their avatars, and in the new movies, it's basically you play as a character in the game, and that's why you have The Rock, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and the girl who plays Nebula, whose name is also escaping me. I am terrible with like how I'm so inconsistent with
Dude,
names.
she's so pretty, it doesn't even matter.
Anywho.
She can be whatever name she wants.
Anywho, but all the characters when they like finally get a chance to see like like their character stat blocks, they see what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are they good at.
Wasn't one of them cupcakes or something like that?
Yeah, Kevin Hart's character is like one of his weaknesses is cake, but he has a prescribed list of weaknesses, and he also it's like that the jock is playing Kevin Hart,
Yeah.
and so of course it's a chance for Kevin Hart to just act big and bad, but again there's comedy in that regard, but the point being is like it was like the guy he was like he saw himself as the Rock, but the nerd ends up playing as the Rock's character. When he looks at his stat block, it's basically like strengths, running, agility, climbing, like literally everything. What are your weaknesses? Listed none. And he still played a well-rounded character in the sense of just like his struggle and his turmoil, and what was actually making him an interesting or compelling character was the fact that it was a lot of his struggles were internal. Like there was that same self-doubt. It doesn't matter the fact that you're in the body of the Rock, in the body of Superman. It's how are you feeling, and what is your mental state? Do you feel like
Yeah.
you are good enough? And for Superman, it's just like it's more so like having that introspective look, or that introspective look of like at what point what does his power make him a god or give him a god complex, and what is he doing to actively check himself in that regard? And on top of that, how do you save everyone or try to save everyone? It's kind of like the Spider-Man bridge equation of like save the trolley or save Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy as they're getting dropped. I'm referencing more so the Tobey Maguire series,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. It's basically like there's a canon event where there's got to be a choice. And so basically a lot of what the Superman stories are now is how does he keep in touch with his humanity, and with that like what is his outlook on the fact that he lives in a world of cardboard? Like How does he check himself? How does he control that? And so that's why Superman, yes, he is a Boy Scout. He will always be a Boy Scout in the eyes of the public. But the
He's
point
a good person.
but the point being is just like it's because he's constantly checking himself, and a lot of more of the stories are just like trying to focus more in on what he does internally, and I think that's why in Superman stories you get a lot of the same story as One Punch Man.
Yeah,
With Saitama, it's
I was
literally-
going to bring that up about One Punch.
It's the exact same thing. Why else do we watch One Punch Man? Because like 90% of every episode is about what all the other characters are doing. Because at the very end of every single
You're like,
encounter,
I got it.
Saitama just kind of shows up and he's just like, "Oh hey Genos," and just problem done. And everyone just like has a moment of, and everyone else has an internal struggle. But for Saitama, it's that play of like, he's so powerful, he's just bored.
Well, see, but that's where. All right, so to compound on this, you're saying it's because we're basically following the strongest person, but while you were out of the room, I brought up that Superman's not even the strongest Kryptonian on Earth.
If you go by the comic books, I guess.
Is that supposed to be
Kara.
Supergirl?
Kara,
Kara Zor-El.
Supergirl. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
Supergirl.
Yeah.
Kara Zor-El.
Yeah.
But she gets her ass beat by the boob hole lady, doesn't she?
That's Power Girl, and no, not exactly, because that's just another hero.
Is she a hero?
I'm telling you, in most of the stories,
You're thinking of the
Kara lasts longer than Kal-El does against like Darkseid and a lot of the other big bads of the universe.
Mhm.
Usually, she's touted as being more powerful.
Technically.
When they race the Flash, she's faster than Superman.
Mhm.
Well,
Like she actually has a chance to keep up for a little bit.
Longer, yeah.
I'm going to hold my tongue on what I really think about that. But
So it's like we're following the strongest person.
I'm sure
but
there's
really,
no-
There's
I'm-
someone 2 cities over that's even more powerful.
I mean,
Batman.
I'm sure there's no
Yes.
agenda behind that. I'm sure that's completely just like straight canon and not agenda based. But anyway,
Dude, I mean, the comics are going to change with the times on some level. But you're going to love the ones that you grew up with more than you're going to love the ones with the new age. I think that's why a lot of people hate Star Wars, especially the newer series. Granted, there's a level of writing that goes into it. I don't blame the actors. I blame the writers.
okay, first off, they did Finn dirty by teasing us, thinking that he was going to be the first like stormtrooper to turn Jedi, and then like Ren just all of a sudden, I have the Force, and I can fight someone who's been trained by Luke Skywalker. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of things.
there's a
that-
lot of holes.
You know what sucks is that they even did some of the pre-work on the clone trooper being force sensitive because Palpatine at one point was trying to make a squad of clone troopers that
were force sensitive.
That's like what eventually became the Inquisitor line.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
that's what they
shit.
were trying to do that entire time.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of comes into like the only issue I have with world building is that it can get too much too big to where it's just like, well, there's always something out there, like like the multiverse stuff. Like you were telling me, the Flash, like in some of the series, like most of his biggest adventures are not even on his world or his universe.
Yes,
Mhm.
most of the time he's off in some other
Dimension.
Earth 4372.
which is
whatever.
why Qui-Gon Jinn always has the best line of "There's always a
Always-
bigger fish."
Yep,
Yeah.
there's always a bigger fish. I say that to myself every time I go into the gym and I see someone much more stronger than me. I'm like, well, Jared, he's just the bigger fish today. It's okay.
It's okay. And that's the thing too. Like I think a lot of I think what was it Stanley actually said at one point in time is just like who's gonna win in a fight? Whoever the writer needs to win.
Yeah, I mean,
At the end of the day, like it's always like these why do characters fight in stories? And it's the same reason why I don't make fights happen all the time in our Dungeons and Dragons games. It's like I want to
because I'm
fight.
going to die.
That is a player choice. No, but that's more so. It's like I want, and it's very much like in movies and in comics. If it makes sense, and if it's a good fight, why is it a good fight? Because it makes sense. There are
Yeah.
stakes. There's something going on, whether it be external or internal. Like when you guys fight, when you guys are chasing that merchant that basically like ripped you guys off and like kind of belittled Gabe's character's name. It's just like, why were you chasing her and why were you fighting her? You guys have a reason to, and she has a stake in it too. She's just trying to make business and basically be one step ahead of
Yeah.
basically everyone that she crosses in her journeys.
Well, you know what? It's funny because it's like to give everyone a quick rundown synopsis of our current D&D campaign.
It's Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden for any of you guys who know the game.
If you know the game, I was brought into this very graciously by the group, and it's just nothing but absolute winter on hell on earth. There's evil ice bitch Elsa that's running everything, and like the funny part is as a new D&D player, I kind of go off of old knowledge of like games and stuff. So I'm thinking, oh, there's an opponent. Well, I guess it's time to fight. Which Luke promptly reminded me the other day. He's like, you can run, like you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can leave everyone behind and be like an Usopp and just I'm not gonna die, just like run and take off. And I
Yell that you have 50,000 soldiers under you.
yeah, I got 50,000 soldiers waiting at my command.
It's one of those too. Like, I mean, when it comes to D&D, again, it goes kind of what I was originally saying. Like, a fight needs to have a stake. It needs to have a reason for existing. I'm not just going to arbitrarily throw like a bunch of bandits on you guys just to fight. Unless, I mean, obviously, unless you're going to look for a fight. But it's one of those like I'm not just going to arbitrarily do that just to make the game longer. In a video game, yeah, absolutely. You're going down the path. Like a guy's like.
It's like I must be going the wrong way.
Give me your gold or I'll get you like a fish. Like it's one of those like I'm not going to just make you randomly deal with that because like that just slows down the game so much. Whereas you guys were fighting the merchant that kind of double crossed you guys. You guys fought like those awakened beasts in the forest because like you guys were given a reason to go out there and fight them. And you guys don't fight often, but when you do, you guys are usually going in at like full strength. So because of it, like it's a full on encounter.
I just love it because there's no guarantee with the dice. Like that's gotta be one of the best parts about it for me. I just love gambling.
Is that gambler in you that still loves it? Yeah.
It's like it's only going to cost my character, which I need you to make me a mini of my character Warren before I do something dumb. Like I just want to commemorate Warren because I almost lost him once, and you were very nice about letting me keep him.
It made sense how we were able to keep him going, but it was very funny.
Luke gave me listen, Jared. You got this. It worked this time, but you fuck around, you're gonna find out. It's like don't go grabbing giant mystical beings in the frost and trying to fight with them and tussle. It's like that's fair.
You tried fighting a cold light walker at level 2.
Yeah,
but it was one of those. Literally, they were at a fortress, and literally everyone was just like, "Hey, a blizzard's coming in. You see those lights? Those are monsters. Don't go to them." And Jared's just like,
I'm gonna go to it.
very, very, very crocodile hunter of you.
I mean, my goal was to try to talk with them, and that didn't work because they didn't want to talk. And then I had enough good rolls to where I think I was rolling hot, and then I rolled bad rolls, and it was not so hot. It was, yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of those, your character unfortunately passed from this world into the immaterial plane, and you were given a second chance.
And a warning. But yeah, man, God, yeah. Kind of segueing on to the miniatures and stuff, like, dude, like, I think that's got to be really interesting.
It's really fun. So, you say I make miniatures. I do not.
I mean, the commission, the art and stuff.
I do like, I do like art commissions. So, like, I do portraits of characters, whether it be like a headshot, full body shot, or even we'll do like character sheets, like full spreads of like the character. Like this is their armor, this is some expressions, or like this is like a couple of different poses of them. That's really fun for me to do. But if you're talking about minis specifically, like painting minis is also a lot of fun. But also, and I will always plug these guys because they are my favorite. Hero Forge is where you can go online and just create a customized miniature.
Because that's what I gotta do, man. I just want that's the first campaign. Like
they now have, and I've been literally saying this. This is not a paid piece, paid sponsored ad. This is just
we
me.
get no pay.
This is me just telling all the D&D nerds who really love their miniatures. Most of you probably already know, but go to heroforge.com and create your miniature. You can order them in a variety of different ways. You can get them just plain and paint them yourself, or you can get ones that are fully like printed in color for you. Or they recently released a flat acrylic like full print that's just basically just a piece of acrylic with a printout of your character on both sides. Which is now the cheapest option, and I literally ordered the biggest type of mini you can make for cheaper than like the base 3D print mini.
Love it.
Again, not paid, not sponsored, but I just really love that and just minis in general.
Yeah, because I definitely would love to get one of those from you. Just he's like, hey, based off of everything that I've done in the campaign so far, just let that be your inspiration, and then I can take that and try to get like the minis for when we actually get in person.
All it's going to be is just a picture of a dwarf just running for his life.
Yeah, that's accurate. I mean, not very fast. A dwarf monk.
You just keep breathing. That's the trick.
I was loving last time we played, and I actually started doing the Tarzan thing. My problem is I forget to look at the inventory in D&D and see what I actually have available.
Mm-hmm. Like I try my best to remind you guys, but there's a certain point where I'm just like,
that's on them.
It's on you guys to know what's on your character sheet.
Yeah,
I'm controlling everything else.
Because I mean, dude, it's yeah. But I mean, I don't know the D&D. Like a lot of my family and other friends and stuff, they're like, Jared, why the fuck are you playing D&D? And because they don't get it, or they have like their own misconceptions of it. They think of like it like this one. I remember a friend of mine, her her mother was asking me about it because she's like, "Oh, you play D&D, Jared? Really? You?" And I was like, "Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of for fun, like being a couple of my friends from high school and like stuff. We stay connected that way. It's kind of like a cool thing."
Mm-hmm.
And she was asking about it and saying like one of her nieces or nephews or something was getting into it, and she was really worried.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What are you worried about?" She's like, "I just don't want him to get like wrapped up in like some weird occult thing or something
That's
beyond."
the satanic panic of the 80s. Oh, and to go back full circle for this entire conversation, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is basically like, yeah, see?
That's where we started like 40 minutes ago.
So, Internet, to bring it back full circle, for Jared,
Full circle.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a video game that was recently released where you basically are playing Dungeons and Dragons by the guys who make Dungeons and Dragons in the city of Baldur's Gate, which is canonically one of the main cities of like like proper D&D lore.
Mm-hmm.
You basically create a character of your own. It can be any race, any class, anything you want about them. Most of which are pulled from the player's handbook, like the core rule books of D&D, and I think they're looking to expand to all the other ones. But in short, like it's basically a game where you get to play virtual Dungeons and Dragons. You are given a party, and each of them have different like character arcs, whether or not you choose to go down those paths. And it's literally just plays like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, complete with rolling a dice for different checks, combat kind of being placed out the same way, and there being some sort of over voice, kind of or narrator kind of speaking and telling you like the different encounters and scenarios.
It's like he rolled for it. Ooh, he fucked that one up.
It's one of those just like you creep into the cavern and you smell the stench of like rotting flesh and whatever, and you look around a corner and you see that there are 7 zombies. And basically, and very much like what I would do as a DM, like the game does for you, it's just like, what would you like to do? And it's within the video game context, you can literally do anything.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
So play Baldur's Gate 3. Also not sponsored, but also we came full circle. See, Vaz, look
Yeah,
at
we
us.
did it.
We did it.
Oh my god. I mean, yeah, dude. I just like that's the thing about it. It's just like
We're either the worst or the best at it.
we're
Not sure. It took us 40 minutes to come back around, but we did it.
I mean,
What was in between? Batman, Star Wars, and generally anything and everything else nerdy.
I mean,
Pretty much.
we've gone DC. We've talked about like yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, what was like it is what it is. But like I told you, it's like what do you what's your podcast about? It's like anything we can cook up.
It started with me talking about design work, and then we very quickly deviated to just nerd shit.
Well, we're just a bunch of good-looking nerdy guys, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, oh my god, dude! That speaking of like how D&D is the devil. That one time we rolled like 6 and you just like rolled a 6. It's like I bet someone else won't roll a 6, and it's like oh my god. So and then
I thought it was just you.
It was Jared.
Yeah, it was just
I thought
you
it was all of
rolling.
us.
Yeah,
No,
it
it
was
was
just you.
just you. You like rolled, got that, and they were just like, all right, well, go again. Got another one, and everyone's just like, well,
No,
we
it's
have
'cause
to see what happens.
It's because he rolled. I think you rolled either at advantage or disadvantage. Either way, you rolled 2 6s, and I'm just like, fuck it, Jared. If you can roll, I'll give you one extra roll just to see if you can actually break this because you rolled 2 of the same number, and you rolled 3, and I'm just like, listen, man, tonight's just not your night.
well, the funny thing was you're like this is what our parents were telling us that this is the devil. It's like this is why they think D&D is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god!
I thought your character just died.
It's
'Cause
been
I was just hearing it from like across the room. I was like playing Apex or
Oh,
something, and
yeah.
I'm hearing 6, 6. Oh no, don't do it.
Don't
a
do
third
it.
Time.
It's
Six.
another 6.
All right, he's dead.
He's dead. It's like Jared's dead. No, not yet.
I don't even remember what you were doing, but yeah, it was just one of those. I was like,
It was something stupid.
I was like, odds of this actually being 3 6s in a row, Jared. Just do it.
just
Let's
do it for the party.
do it for the vine.
Yeah, do it for the vine. Oh my god,
Full
man.
circle again.
But yeah, I mean, Jesus, dude, it's just like it is what it is. I love it. I'm super happy that I got to be involved in it, and I mean, like, definitely want to wait till I finish this last little bit of schooling before I get into Baldur's Gate 3 or whatever you said it was. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Baldur's Gate 3.
oh my god,
I think you can even like multiplayer party up
You
with
can.
people. So like you could just play with your D&D
Shit.
group and start like basically a separate campaign,
campaign,
that you
yeah.
just play on the virtual.
well, if I ever was gonna get a wife, there it goes.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what happens with me, Daniel and Gabe. Like, so I'm running one game with those two, and you are involved in that one. Gabe is running another game where it's just myself and Daniel and a couple other guys. And Gabe is not affiliated with the third one, but Daniel's also running his own game
Oh,
that I'm a part of. So and I'm also just DMing for another group entirely. So I'm running 2 games and playing in 2 games.
dude. I mean, I just struggle so much to just make like week after week. I have to like hop on, go see what the notes were from last week, and go and try to remember as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited, like because I feel like we're starting to get to that point in the campaign.
You guys are basically out of the like local heroes phase, or like the good citizens into the local heroes phase of just like you guys have gained a level of infamy amongst the towns, and
Maybe it was
you
our traveling circus that we did for a little bit.
possibly, but also it was a matter of you guys basically like the way that Icewind Dale Realm of the Frost Maiden is set up is basically the first levels from level 1 to really essentially 4. The game tries to keep them within the different towns. There's 10 towns within kind of basically think like the Frozen North. And the first 4 levels are just a way for you to get your bearings on the world and really kind of get to know your characters, the party dynamics, and kind of maybe help out a couple of towns to kind of level up your characters. You guys are at that tipping point now where you guys are going out into the frozen like the frozen dale itself, and it is a much darker and scarier place than the towns were, and that's kind of the point and how it's written in the game. But
Yeah.
there's that extra element that I'm also bringing into it where I'm trying to basically be like, things are actually happening now. You guys were safe when you were within the towns, and you still are, but for how long?
For how long? That's the trick, man.
Because the cold is ever creeping in.
God, good God Almighty. Well, shoot, dude. Well, I know we said we're going to try to get you home by dinner time. What time are we at right now?
It is.
We're at 1.5.
Really, 1.5.
We started a little bit late
That's
too.
true. But yeah, I mean, I had a flat tire. Always fun to. Thank God my spare was still good. I hadn't checked that in a minute. But yeah, dude. I mean, should we wrap it there, gentlemen?
We can if you want. Yeah.
I mean, I know I got the band coming in so we can rehearse later and stuff. So we got to flip the room.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but yeah, dude. My brother Luke, it's always a pleasure to have you, man. I hope like we can get the one of the sessions of the D&D group here, so we can do it in a D&D like podcast and just get everyone like I think it'd be really hilarious, especially because everyone's really good about doing like the voice work and stuff. I just go to my Scottish and that's all I got.
I mean, I try to do accents, but it always inevitably just kind of deviates its way back to an Aussie accent.
Or Gabe, I like how he's a werebolg now.
So this is
A
just to give the internet some context.
So yeah, some context.
So Gabe's first character was unfortunately killed just through a combat encounter.
Happenstance.
It happens, but it's one of those two, like, I talked with him a little bit behind the scenes, and he wanted to make another character. The second character is a furbolg, but also a blood hunter furbolg with the lycanthropy subclass. And since it's already kind of happened, like now the cat's out of the bag, I can kind of actually talk about this now. But in short, so the blood hunter class is technically unofficial content. It was created by Matt Mercer to kind of go in with for a character for another campaign that he was running, but it's become unofficial content that players and DMs can use if you want. I was cool with it, and so basically he's playing a furbolg that has a bit of a lycanthropic curse in a sense. But when I was talking about it with Gabe, I'm like, so what do you want to turn into? And he's just like, can I just be like a bigger and scarier furbolg? And I'm just like, yeah, a werebolg is now a thing. You are that.
You are that. Oh my God. I mean, dude, it was so funny because I mean, it's just like Gabe is a mountain of a man when it comes to personality, and just it just absolutely fits him. Like it's just he's such and his voice that he does for it is perfect. And so I hope that we can get it put together to where we can get him in when he's not traveling the world and being all cool and shit.
Well, I think one last thing, and I know we're trying to wrap up, but one last thing I'll say on D&D, maybe the first of many last things as conversations go. But I think that everyone's character in some way, shape, or form is an aspect of who they are as a person. That's why, like, I love creating a bunch of different characters, but each of them, sometimes I create them just for the sake of the drama, but like there's a modicum of you in everyone you made. Like that's why like your dwarven character Warren like is kind of like, so strong-headed, so strong-willed, but not necessarily in a bad way, but it's just one of those like,
he means well.
He means well, and he knows who his friends are, and you play that very well off of the Banana Man's character, who's just there for a chaotically fun time. And anytime he can't make a session, we just assume that his character, he's a Goliath, by the way, which is like, basically think like Shaquille O'Neal compared with running along with, so basically the party consisted of Shaquille O'Neal standing next to Gimli the dwarf, standing next to Frodo and Sam.
I think
Like-
it'd be more like in the beginning. Well, yeah, in the beginning it was.
In the beginning, it
It
was.
was more like Merry and Pippin.
Merry and Pippin is probably a better way to put it. But yeah, but that was essentially like the ratio of characters that we had from a height standpoint.
Yeah.
So the Banana Man's character is obviously the biggest one, and it's hilarious because he still just gets into his own shenanigans. But
Isn't he
point-
also the stealthiest one?
he is
He
Out of all
is.
of them, so just this giant guy's hiding behind flagpoles and whatnot.
exactly,
He's
and it
known
just
through the
works.
wintry wind as the White Shadow.
Yeah, but the reason I brought that part up is because there are some nights where players can't make a session, and it just fits the Bananas Man personality and his character's personality enough to be like, so like he's not there, so the Banana Man can't make it to the game, so his character just kind of becomes just there in the background. You know how sometimes campaigns can go, but I just was like, it actually makes sense. He's T-posing and hovering a little bit. He's unintentionally clipping through the map, or he's like running into like
He's stuck in the corner of the
he's
ceiling.
stuck in the corner. He's like clipping through the map and stuff like that. At one point, he was spinning, and the players just ran with it to the point where, yeah. Do you want me to?
Yeah, you tell about it.
So at one point in time, they needed to book it back into town, and again, the Banana Man wasn't in, so they were like, "It's quite a journey." Jared was like, "I have this rope, and canonically." The Banana Man's character is just, T-posing, flying around, and almost spinning like a helicopter. You know how like sometimes like a broken character will just kind of glitch through the map and stuff. So they managed to reel him in, and Jared basically tied a rope to his ankles, slowly built up some of the momentum from
Him just floating
from
off
him
the
just
ground.
floating around, and then basically threw himself like Thor with the Banana Man's character being Mjolnir towards town.
How we land? Stay tuned to find out, everybody.
No, they already landed. It was basically you just kind of body surfed on the.
It's going to ruin it.
You just like hang 10
Yeah.
off of the Banana Man's character, but nah. Banana Man, if or when you see this, like that's basically what happened this last session. When you missed out, if you're not there, just assume that you're T-posing and clipping through the map in some way, shape, or form.
And that's, that like you said, it fits him.
It does.
And it's still, we find a way to make him a part of the group, even when he's not there. He's very useful in utility.
Well, here's the thing. So he plays a psychic rogue, which basically he can make daggers out of mental energy. At one point in time, he rolled so well that he convinced just a local NPC, that they were real daggers, and they will they'll just like completely shank anybody. It'll always work. And he's just, but obviously, of course, like it's a limited resource, and like once he walks away, the dagger's gonna disappear. But he was just like giving it to this guy. He made this whole speech of just like, I need you to sit with this for 32 hours. Exactly. Don't move. Don't do anything. And he rolled so well that he basically convinced a town guard that like he was about to like attune to this like psychic dagger. And like the guard basically paid him like a portion of his life savings because because the Banana Man was just rolling so well.
I mean, that persuasion, if it hits, it hits.
But the thing is, like, persuasion is not even one of his like better skills.
Yeah.
He just rolled well.
Yeah. Which it's...
And that's Dungeons and Dragons, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Dungeons and Dragons. And then, again, this is Luke. Definitely make sure we'll send some links and stuff. He's a great graphic design artist and everything. Please give him all your commissions. Give him all your money. And he'll do you great work, as well as just being an absolute gem of a human being. So, Luke, thank you again. Is there anything you want to send the people off with?
I usually have a couple of send-offs, but since nobody really, like, people may not know me, I don't want it to be taken out of context. Just get that bread.
Get that bread. All right. Once again, thanks again for joining the Strange Herd podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, stay strange. We'll see you next time. Woo!
Ciao.
Up on the mountain, got on the rail.